You can be surrounded by people and still feel like no one would notice if you disappeared for a week. You tell yourself you're just busy, just tired, just in a season. And maybe you are. But somewhere in the last few years, the distance between you and the people you love got a little wider. And you let it, because closing it felt like more than you had to give. Here's what we're not going to do today. Tell you to text an old friend and call it solved. We're going to talk about why isolation has gotten so good at disguising itself as peace, and how to walk out of it without walking out alone. You will leave this episode knowing exactly what to say to the person you've been meaning to call, and exactly what to do the next time you feel yourself pulling away. My name is Michael Perry, and I'm joined today by Justin Gates.
Howdy.
And this is the New Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the New Ashla Podcast. Today we're diving into isolation, particularly how bad it's just gotten in society nowadays. And we all can feel it. We all know it. And most of us are honestly probably living it to some degree or another. It's, we're creatures of habit, and I think that COVID was a big thing that sort of amplified this. But how do we start coming back? How do we start building bridges again? How do we start living amongst each other again and experiencing life? Because isolation has shown across the board through medical studies and everything how detrimental it is for mental health, substance abuse, and just personal well-being and confidence.
Yeah. And before we can do all that, though, we have to address the elephant in the room. Loneliness has become normal.
Yeah.
And isolation kills people. It literally kills people. Maybe not quickly. Sometimes it does, unfortunately. But it's become a new normal for our society. And not just American society, but human society. Right? Loneliness is not something that kicks the door in and says, "I'm here."
No.
Right? And it doesn't look like sitting alone in a dark room like we would imagine, right? If you've never felt lonely, which I find hard to believe. I think we've all been lonely, at least from time to time. But it's not just this dude sitting in a dark room, right? Sometimes it looks like busyness. Sometimes it looks like productivity. Sometimes we like to call it independence.
Well, and I mean, there's so much distraction nowadays. Like, you can be with your family, with people you care about. And I'm guilty of this. I know I have had moments in my life where I am so overwhelmed by all the things going on that even when I'm spending time with people, I'm scrolling through the socials, I'm playing games, I'm doing everything I can to dissociate. And even if we're right in the same room, we couldn't be any further away.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's not what we think it is, right? Sometimes it is a dude sitting alone in a dark room, right? Sometimes it is. But it also looks like having 50 contacts in your phone and having tons of messages and having plenty of followers on your Facebooks and your socials and all this stuff, but still realizing that almost no one on there would call you if life kind of started falling apart. This is something I learned recently. As you guys have been following the show, I had really bad, scary health stuff going on. And I had a lot of people reach out to me, which is good for me, right? I mean, I don't feel lonely because I know there's a lot of people that love me, but this is part of what makes it feel so dangerous. And what makes it actually dangerous, it redraws the map of who we reach for, right? At first you stop calling as much. Then you stop making plans, or you stop showing up to things. And then you lie to yourself and say, well, everyone's just going to be busy anyway. And days become weeks, Michael. Weeks become months. And then this stuff starts to feel really normal. I suffered a bout of loneliness years ago when Heather and the kids moved to Colorado from Nevada. And it was such a strange thing on the other end of it, because I didn't realize how bad I had gotten in there. I would literally sit in the dark. I know I said it isn't always about that, but I'd sit in front of a computer screen and work on the old podcast, the old KOA podcast, the Nights of Awakening stuff. And I would work on that, and I would just do that like crazy. And the only real contact with people I had was at work or my dogs, you know. But it really started to feel normal. I didn't realize how normal it was until I got out of it. Until I packed up my stuff, finally sold the house, and finally got out here with them. But dude, they were out here for like, I don't know, 6 months or something. I got to Colorado literally on Christmas Day is when I got here. They left in July. So
Oh God.
right? So but it was crazy because I never realized how normal I made it until I got on the other side. And then I was like, holy crap, dude. Now, I was never suicidal or any of that kind of stuff because I really love living. I think that's not going to be a problem for me. My survival ticker is very strong, but there was a lot of things that I did to myself, a lot of things, not that I did to myself, but a lot of things I suffered because of it. But the problem we're talking about today is that this has become a culture, really, right?
Yeah.
Because as you said, we're so connected. We're more connected by things than probably ever in history, as far as the number of people we can be connected to. And I'll use that word connected very loosely. All right. But most of us are more disconnected than ever, even though we have all these things that can connect us.
Well, it's like I look at it as when we're in isolation, we need social interaction because our relationships, our connections are mirrors that allow us to see ourselves clearly, understand our thoughts and emotions and opinions, help us digest all that. And when we're alone with the mirror starts becoming more and more distorted. And it makes it so much harder to want to get out there. I'm a big believer that the way our minds work in any of the realms of behavior, it's all muscles. And if your muscle starts to atrophy, it becomes a lot harder to carry that weight you used to. And it's like I've been on the end of isolating from the world. I remember being in the one toxic relationship I was for 7 years. I stopped talking to my friends. I stopped going out and following my hobbies, and slowly that became a cage. And even after that ended, it was so hard for me to start building that muscle up again of reaching out to people, of getting out there and doing things and getting out of my comfort zone. And a lot of it had to do with shame and just feeling like I was so bad at communication before. And a lot of it is, and I know we're all guilty of it, is we all have that person we want to call. And we wait, and it becomes more and more intimidating, or more and more just like, I'll get to that later. Because we just don't want to do it. And it's not because we don't love the person or want that social interaction, but something in us develops resistance. Because I'm a firm believer that molehills become mountains.
Mm-hmm. Every time.
Yep.
There's a reason that's a saying, right? Because it's true. We do make mountains out of molehills, man. In here, mostly. It's not actually become a mountain, right? You can just reach out to them. And maybe you feel bad or you feel guilty because you haven't. I have someone in my life right now, and I don't know if they're going to listen to this show or not. I don't know if they do. That has been very bad at communicating with me and connecting with me, especially during all this crazy stuff that's happening in my life. I really feel like I need them, but they don't. And I have a feeling it's because they haven't. They let it go a little bit too far. Now they feel like they can't.
Yep.
And now I have made inroads. I've contacted them just to give them that bridge, right? So that they didn't have to feel guilty. But they missed the plot, I think. They don't get it. But I picked an axiom for here because what we're really talking about here is the absence of connection, and connection literally will save our life, right? That axiom is, sometimes it is wise to accept the assistance or advice of an intermediary, Now that sounds very formal, and my goodness, I need to hire.
Call your lawyer now.
I have to, yeah, call your lawyer, right? Yeah, but no, we're talking about bridges that connect people here, right? Connection is one of the most important things that it is as important as eating, drinking, shelter. It doesn't kill you as fast if you don't have those other things, right? But it's about building bridges, and sometimes that bridge is a friend. Sometimes that bridge is a mentor. Sometimes it's your chosen or biological family. A lot of times it's community, just going outside and sitting with people, right? Like you always like to tell us. You always tell us a story of how you started to get better at being around people. You would go to the malls and just watch people, and then you would force yourself to talk to them and stuff like that, right? Just being out in the community is a bridge. And because look, it's important to understand that sometimes it's all it takes is one person to notice that you have kind of disappeared and reaches out to you. Sometimes they are the bridge. But sometimes we offer that bridge to them so they can reciprocate, because we need that too.
Well, and I think you bring up a very good point. I think this axiom is perfect for this, because it's exactly like I was talking about earlier about how it's the only mirror we have is ourselves, and we, more often than not, we are not our best friends. We say things to ourselves we would never say to another human being. That mirror gets distorted beyond belief. And so having that intermediary, having at least one person you can put yourself around to help ground yourself, to help come back to baseline, to help realize you're freaking human, is monumental, not just for building this muscle, but for your mental health. Like, we as humans, one of our base needs is connection, and we are fighting it tooth and nail in this day and age. You know, one of the things that drives me crazy is, like, I'm huge on hypocrisy. Like, I do, that is one of my biggest triggers. But there's one gray area I have.
That's the autism in you, bro.
Yeah, right. But guaranteed. But this is one area I have a lot of gray area, because I see so many people suffer from kind of like what you're talking about, where, you know, I am sick of people not reaching out to me. I'm done with this person because they don't seem to care. And the irony is, like, I am one person who is ironically really good at, like, staying connected with people, just checking in, whatever.
You really are. Yeah.
But I do not hold anyone to that standard, because life is crazy, life is busy.
But you make the rest of us feel bad because you're so good at it.
But it's like, I'll look at these people who complain about this, and I've gotten to the point now where I'll try to ground them, because it's like, look, when was the last time you called them? When was the last time you messaged them? And I'm not saying that you should do that and then expect them to do it back. You got to build that rapport, because if they're not an active part of someone's life, you probably will be forgotten about. Not because you're not important to them, but because people are so focused on their sphere of influence that it's kind of one of those, well, yeah, hey man, let's hang out. Like, that's how that goes, instead of, oh, I need to hit him up, I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah.
I have
someone in my life very close to me. You know them, but I'm not going to say who they are, because someone may be listening. Someone else may be listening that may take what I'm saying the wrong way. But like you said earlier, we're not telling you to text this person and call it solved, right? But you know, your questions are valid, Michael. When's the last time you reached out to them, right? Now, going back to my own example, you know, I feel really bad this person doesn't seem to, because it feels like this person doesn't care about me anymore. And I know they do. I just think that they've allowed too much time to go by, even though I've given them many bridges to get back to me. So, but it is very hard to it is very hard, this thing, because, and I'll ask you to kind of elaborate on this, but a lot of people don't experience their loneliness as we would, like we said, as we would think, right?
Yeah.
They experience it as being busy, or they're just I hear this so often. They're just fiercely independent, right? Or hey, I'm just used to being alone, or they're really tired, or whatever. they experience it as these kind of things which aren't true. They may be true in some sense, right? Yeah, you might be busy, but a text takes 5 seconds. You might be tired, but you can do it first thing in the morning when you wake up, right? There's always these sound more like excuses, and I don't want to call anybody out. Why do you think isolation has become so normalized that people don't even realize that they're lonely anymore?
Oh, so this is where it really gets good. One thing I want to touch on that you brought up that I didn't even think about incorporating into this that is so important is look how Justin handled his situation, where his mind went and where his logic went. Because this is, I think, where so many people get stuck in this whole they don't contact me thing. What is the story you tell yourself about the relationships you have? All right? Like Justin said, his mind could be like, they don't like me anymore. They don't care about me. And I think a lot of us fall into that trap of taking those stories and then making them fact and not actually giving someone their humanity. So just be mindful of that. And when you have relationships in your life that right now you're thinking, I don't know if I want to reach out to that person or have them in my life. Ask yourself, is the story you're telling based on facts and words? Is it something that could have been observable on a security cam? I love this analogy because I heard it somewhere and it's stuck every time when it comes to rumination. Is like, if you were to catch what happened on a security cam, would you have the facts you need to justify the story you're telling? Because often the answer is no, I went on a tangent and then I decided to just believe it because I felt good.
Right.
But to answer your question though, the comfort zone. It is one of the deepest areas of my work because I've struggled so much with this, where there's areas in my life where things shrink around us. We get used to environments, and even if isolation is horrible for our health, even when we know we're lonely and we crave connection, once that zone shrinks around us, it's far more comfortable for our unconscious, for our conscious, to make up excuses, to validate why we shouldn't reach out. Because again, as it shrinks down, we end up falling into these behaviors, and everything's based on habit. My social muscle is strong because I'm constantly exercising it. But when you're at home alone, even if you're miserable, it's the familiar hell compared to having to get out there, be a person, to have to be on someone's schedule where you can't necessarily just leave whenever you feel like it. Like, I'm thinking of the excuses I'd tell myself in those situations. But, because you're right. A lot of us do say we're busy right now. And what are we doing? We're playing video games, binging Netflix, or doom scrolling on social media.
Right. I mean, it's true. I am busy, right? Is the quality I'm getting out of doom scrolling versus reaching out and having some human connection, are those equal things? Not even close. But everything you just said really is how this shows up. This when we start making excuses, when we start fabricating or exaggerating, and look, because a lot of this stuff they're not lies. People are tired. People are busy, right? People do need to rest, and people have their limits. People do need their space. But are we exaggerating these things? Again, I can send a text message to you, and you'll respond when you can. You'll respond when you're not tired, when you're not busy, right? So, I mean, are we really lying to ourselves here? Is that how we know it shows up? I wouldn't really say that we're lying, but we certainly are exaggerating.
Well, and I mean, I think, again, it comes back to the stories we tell, right? And I'm not even talking about to the person we're giving our reasoning to. It's all of a sudden we feel that discomfort of, oh, God, now I got to go out and see people. And then I know I have a couple people who are really close to me in my life where I'm not going to call it a trauma response, but their overwhelm response, especially by their nervous systems, is they start getting really tired. They start feeling exhausted. They start feeling like, I really don't want to do this now. And it's not a fault, but it's also self-awareness, right? It's because one thing I can say for myself and anyone I've met is even in the worst of those moments of I'm exhausted, I don't want to do this. Once you get that person from point A to point B in about 15 minutes, they're going to be so thankful they threw that excuse out the window and did it anyway.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not a very isolated person, but I am definitely very, very home. I'm a big homebody. You know, I like to be home because I don't spend any money and I enjoy my company. But
Yeah.
and because I've always got stuff that I feel like I need to do, you know, in the show that, and this is something I need to work on. And this is something that lots of people are helping me with all the time. But, you know, in the show that I did about when I kind of talked about all the issues that are going on with me, and you asked me, you know, the question you asked me was, what kind of thing was I wrestling with the most, coming so close to dying? Was that did I leave enough? Did I leave enough wisdom, or leave enough money, or leave enough whatever? You know, did I serve enough? And that sounds very noble, and it sounds all this stuff. And you know, believe me, I wasn't trying to sound noble. That is just my honest answer. And there's good in that, but there's also some bad in that, because then I would rather be at home constantly pushing out content, or constantly writing, or constantly giving more and more and more and more, which is not good, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of another thing too, where if I'm not careful, look, if I didn't have the people around me that were around me, like you and my wife and my kids and my mom, and always trying to get me to go outside and do stuff, then I would probably fall into that trap. But you know what makes this really hard is the whole idea that, you know, we have to be adults, right? You always hear the phrase, "Oh man, I got to go out and an adult," right?
Yep.
But that's where that kind of thinking leads to some problems too over time, because that withdrawal, or that isolation, can wear some very mature, reasonable clothing, right? It wears it sounds very mature because, you know, it does sound respectful. It does sound like I'm respecting you, right? Or sounds peaceful. I'm just giving you space, and that's what I'm really guilty about that one too. I don't reach out enough because I'm just trying to give people space, and I literally use that excuse, and that's something that I work on all the time. Or people will say, I don't want to bother anyone, or I'll reach out when things calm down. Well, things will never calm down at that point, right? My favorite, they know I'm here if they need me. That's another one of Justin's famous, you know, infamous quotes that I would tell my wife. Hey, look, if they need me, they know where to find me, you know? But this is where this stuff really quietly creeps in and starts to overtake us, because no one wants to be the friend who feels like a burden, right? No one wants to be.
Well, and it's interesting how you bring this up, because one thing I have noticed is, because it's so true, so many people don't want to be a burden on others, and so they keep everything on lock. I have had more people have deep, honest communication with me about crap they're going through, because I just happened to have sent that text message of, hey, just checking in on you, how you doing? And then being like, honestly, horrible. It's like, let me hear it. That doesn't mean let people trauma dump all over you, but it does mean, like, sometimes that one message might land at the perfect moment. You know, it's like the other day I messaged you and you were going through some stuff with all the stuff you've been going through. And to me, it felt like one of those right time, right place things where it's like, hey, I want to give this guy a call real quick because I think he's going through it a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's so important to have, when you have these connections, to, you know, when you do have that reach out, you might land at a point where they are struggling and they just don't want to be a burden, or they feel guilty because they don't want their whole communication with you being when there's a problem.
Right. Or one side.
And vice versa. Yeah. And vice versa. Like, because I do it too. I have so many relationships that I know people could help me, and I don't reach out because it's like, I haven't talked to you in a long time, so I don't want you to think I'm only reaching out because I need something from you.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where this axiom, every time I read this axiom, it sounds like obvious, right? But you'd be surprised how often people don't realize. And the axiom I've chose for this segment is, that which is apparent can easily be managed. That which is not yet apparent can easily be prevented. And, you know, this axiom fits here because loneliness becomes harder to address, as you're just now talking about, once it's settled into a person's life. once it solidifies in there, it becomes really difficult to address and call out, right? But when the signs are still small and manageable, that's when it's time to act. When that pattern hasn't quite formed yet and it's still kind of forming, you're still reinforcing it, you can interrupt it. And that's what we're talking about here is kind of seeing how it shows up. But if we ignore those signs, like in all things, if we keep telling ourselves that everything is fine, if we keep allowing ourselves to isolate more and more and more and not calling it out, then it becomes almost impossible. And it is kind of the epidemic that we see today. But really, Michael, it's hard to spot because every excuse sounds mature and reasonable, right?
Yeah. We try to respect people.
Right, we do. But how do we begin to tell the difference between a healthy solitude and that pattern of isolation taking over?
There are seasons in our life. I had one just a couple years back where isolation is important. When you're sort of refiguring out life, you're reevaluating where your priorities lie, you're sort of getting back into equilibrium. Mm-hmm. The question is, are you avoiding connection because of resistance? Are you avoiding it because you're actually doing something meaningful? And meaningful can be rest. Meaningful can be you're working on a business, or you just have a lot going on with family. But look at your nervous system, because your nervous system will cue you in. When you have things going on that you're taking care of, you might feel guilt. But beyond that, you're not going to feel that feeling of shame. You're not going to feel that feeling of, trying to think what the best word for this is, of feeling small. Because you will know in your body the minute you say no to something because you didn't want to step out of your comfort zone compared to when you actually had an obligation that had a higher priority. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the biggest reason people end up staying stuck in their comfort zones, or being stuck in isolation, better said?
Well, because they will call isolation peace. Just protecting my peace. All right?
That's good. That's good.
I'm just protecting my peace. I hear that a lot. And that may be a good thing for some people, depending on what's going on in their life. But when you start calling isolation peace, or mistaking it, at least your withdrawal for peace, that becomes a problem. And you do that because you avoid conflict and you avoid being uncomfortable so often that it starts to feel like you're actually healing. And that's not. And I've, that's something I got to be honest about myself too. I don't like conflict just as much as the next person does. I know I look like I'm built for conflict, but I don't enjoy it, right? No, who does, right? Very few people enjoy that, right? There are times when pulling back is healthy and good for us. And sometimes we do need space, and sometimes silence is good. We talk about the power of silence on the path of Ashla, and the power of solitude when it helps you regulate and when it helps you reflect, right? But it becomes something different when the goal is not to rest, but you are actually seeking avoidance now at this point, right? Yeah. So the question becomes, am I stepping back so I can return more clear, or am I stepping away so I don't have to return at all, right? Because peace really should be more available to truth, not less available, right?
Yeah.
Real peace grounds you, not this other stuff that happens.
How many people do you think, once they get to a place of isolation, because this is something I've seen, is when they go from, I'm isolating a lot, it's starting to become uncomfortable to get out, and then the shift where it becomes an identity, where all of a sudden it's like, I just don't want to be around people. I don't like people. I don't want to deal with this, that. You think that's pretty common?
It's literally a mantra now, right? Oh, it's too people-y out there. Like you hear these actual like mantras now about being away from other human beings. So yeah, I think a lot of people, I don't know if it's most or some, but a lot. I would say a lot of people, swing in and out of that ideal. And this is where others are important. It's where community is important. It's where friends and loved ones are important. It's they are literally a lifeline for us, right? Because, as you said, once we get too far into that, it becomes what we are. And if you can't pull yourself out of a hole without holding the rope, right? Someone has to hold the rope for you. And once you're in that hole, you can throw the rope up there all you want. It's not going to hook to anything until somebody grabs it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, when you said we need to do a show on this and that it's an epidemic, you weren't joking. It is like there are literally mantras built around this stuff of being disconnected from each other, and it's crazy.
Well, it's like I have this friend who is extremely close to me. He is one of my best friends, and he's got a heart of gold. He is an amazing person. Yet, like, if I ask him to come hang out at the apartment, like, he will be there. He has maybe said no once to that. But you bet your butt, anytime I'm like, hey, let's go to this event, come meet these people, it is instantly, nope, I'm not doing that. And I had a heart-to-heart with him a couple days ago because I love this fucking guy. And I'm like, hey, you should come to this class I'm teaching. Like, I'd appreciate the support, and I'd love for you to meet these people. And it was, nope. And so I dug a little deeper, and it's like, I'll show up at your house. I'll pick you up. Like, I will make this happen. And then I started realizing,
I'll drop you off
can't
at the
force
class,
people.
but I'm not going in there with you.
Yeah. And so as I started diving into this, he was just like, look, I just don't want to be around people. I don't want to be seen by people. I don't want to be rejected by people.
Right.
I don't want to be vulnerable around people. And so I told him, it's like, look, I love you. I see what you're going through. I understand where you're at. I am going to knock on your door, proverbially, not physically. Every time one of these classes come up, I am going to keep trying, because at one point, I am going to make you get out, because that is so important. We need that type of, like you said, someone to hold the freaking rope.
Yeah.
Because, man, some people get trapped in that hole, and unfortunately, sometimes like, I kind of like it. It's dark and cool down here, and
Nobody bothers me.
Nobody bothers me.
People throws Pop-Tarts in there every once in a while. It just rains. It just rains Pop-Tarts. I don't know who's throwing them down here. Yeah. It's interesting. I just read a study where they were talking about how people use prayer or some sort of spiritual practice like prayer, just the many variations, to combat loneliness, and how they're actually more healthy for it, even if they don't have a lot of people in their life. And the conclusion was because they are still connected, whether that be a higher power or not, or to their spiritual groups, even through just thought, right? And I thought that was interesting, because we do have to figure a way out, right? And as I was sharing earlier about my own situation, sometimes the way out, sometimes the way to defeat loneliness is being the person who does reach out first, right?
And not expecting it to mean everything solved right away.
Right.
Again, I reach out to all these people in my life. I have maybe one or two people who consistently hit me up, and it doesn't bug me with the rest. Like, I don't need that consistency, because I know they care. I know they love me. I know they value me as a friend. It has nothing to do with my own worth.
Right.
But it keeps me in connection, and it helps let them know, hey, I see you. I love you. I'm here if you need me.
Now, Heather gets very, very upset when people don't reach out to me. And this one person in particular, she is very upset with, because she sees it as an act of betrayal and an act of, disrespect. And I don't see it that way. Does it hurt me? Yes. Yes, it does. It does hurt me on some level. But I don't let it make me feel like I shouldn't reach out to people, or that I don't need people, right? That's kind of the first thing we have to do. We have to shift our mindset to be, like you said, I am grateful for the people who reach out to me. For those who don't, I offer them grace.
Yes.
Offer them grace.
One of my best friends, we were really close for a couple years, and he fell off the map. Like, I hit him up so many times over the course of 6 years. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And one day, one of those messages landed. One day, that bridge got recultivated. And when that happened, again, he's one of my best friends now. And it's like, but I never had that animosity. There were, like you said, it hurt. There were times where I felt like, man, like, what did I do to this guy? Like,
Right.
Why is there such a disconnect? But I never closed myself off to them. I always kept that door open. Yeah. And doing so was meaningful, not just for his growth, but for my own. And now I have a great relationship because we had that rupture and then that fix. Which the rupture had nothing to do with us as far as like doing anything wrong. It was just the season he was in.
Yeah, we have to understand that everybody's going through something at some point, and not all of our seasons align. Right?
Yeah.
They don't. They do. If they do, it's by accident. It's not by design, right? But this is how we don't let loneliness win, is when we start to understand that connection is not an easy thing. It requires work. It requires follow-up. It requires grace and gratitude. It's just the act of reaching, as you did, or as he finally did, is what begins to soften the fear that nobody cares and nobody wants us around, or whatever the case may be. Connection doesn't always come before the courage. Sometimes the courage has to come first. Sometimes putting our pride away and being humble has to come first, right? So we're not saying, I should just reach out to someone. What we're saying is reach out to someone specific who came to mind as you're listening to this episode. Them. Reach out to them, right?
And don't wait till you feel ready.
Right. No, because you may never be ready, right? Because connection is hard. Relationships are hard. Because there's all kinds of this human mess in between, right? We can be messy creatures. That's part of our charm, though, right? That's what makes us so great, so powerful, right? But, check in on the one you assume is always fine because they don't say anything.
Especially those.
The one you keep meaning to check on, but to haven't for one of your 1,000 reasons, right?
Yeah.
And when you reach out, ask them something real, man. Don't just offer some polite question or some small talk.
Get curious.
Hey, how are you? But Michael, how are you really? Don't bullshit me, really. Right? Not just, I hope you're good. But, hey, bro, I noticed you've been quiet, and I just wanted to check in on you. Right? Not just we should catch up sometime, right? But, hey, man, I miss you. Do you want to grab coffee this week? Right? Because, and these kinds of things matter, Michael, because loneliness survives in these generalities, right? In these, I don't know what, in these manners sometimes. In these polite settings, people die in there sometimes because that's where loneliness survives. It's where loneliness overtakes them. Right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that interests me as I see this out in the world is I look at the people who I'm really close to, and then the people who are friends, but they're not necessarily people in my inner circle. And the number one factor, and I think this goes for most people, is authenticity. So many people try to come across as the smartest person in the room, tries to be stoic and I have no problems and I'm great just the way I am. The connections I have that are meaningful are the ones with shared struggle, where there's vulnerability, where there's the ability to say, man, I had a hard freaking week this week. Can I talk to you about it? Because I think a lot of us are afraid of that rejection. I have one friend, I care about him deeply, but his whole life revolves around lies. He always has to tell a story, and it's just like I don't question it. I don't confront him on it. I might bring it up from time to time where I'm like, hey, you don't have to be so cool to be liked.
Yeah. I have a question for you because we need to bring this show as we start to wind it down. We need to make it practical because a lot of people are going to say, that they should reach out. Everyone out there that's listened to this says, oh yeah, I know that guy I need to reach. Everybody has a person in mind they need to reach out. I have a person in mind as I'm doing this show, as I'm recording the show, as I'm teaching here today. I have a person that I'm going to reach out to after this show. But we need to make this practical. Everybody's going to agree to that, right? They're going to say, yeah. But the actual moment of sending the message can feel very uncomfortable, right? Or maybe even risky. Why does this? Maybe we can help people put their mind at ease. Why does reaching out feel so damn vulnerable in these situations? And how can they do it and feel confident doing it?
So I can't say that you can make the feeling go away, but it is what you resist shall persist. The molehill becomes the mountain. And often we're afraid of the obligation that will follow. And I think that's one of the stories we tell ourselves is once I reach out, I'm going to have to keep reaching out. But it's being able to catch that resistance, to see what comes up and not judge it, but also not believe everything it's trying to tell you. Because often that resistance is just excuses made manifest in sensations of anxiety and depression and feeling small. And it's being able to take the next best step we can while feeling that discomfort. Because the discomfort's not going to just go away one day. A lot of us wait for that perfect moment where, okay, you know what? I'm confident enough. I'm ready to start talking to people again. You will spend your whole life avoiding those conversations if that's the mentality you go through.
Or it may be too late.
Yeah. Yes. I think that one's huge. I've seen a lot of people with that regret where they lose someone they love, and it's just like, damn it, I knew I should have hit that guy up. I knew I should have connected with them more, and now I don't have that chance. Yeah. And if you have someone like that, let that be your motivation. Let that be your fire to say, I will move past this discomfort and into connection. And I think you brought up another important point because we're all at different stages of this. Some of us have just started isolating. Some of us are deeply afraid and have social anxiety out the wazoo. Another big one I see is, and this one really surprises me how many people I meet, don't actually have friends. It's crazy to me. They have maybe some Discord people they talk to and stuff like that, but there's so many people out there that don't have friends. And I get how intimidating that is, especially when you haven't had friends in a long time. But get out there to meetups, networking groups, different things, whatever you're interested in. There's a group for it in your area. I promise you. Go on Meetup, Eventbrite, it's there. And I think most importantly, again, whether if you're someone in social isolation and dread people, or you're someone who's just starting isolation, be honest with yourself and meet yourself where you're at. Mm-hmm. Because for the person who's chronically afraid of social situations, try to have someone, even if it's just a family member, to go to a social setting. And make it a small one. Make it bite-sized. If there's someone who's just in isolation and doesn't know where to begin, maybe your choice is the meetup or going and meeting people. I find power in numbers. One of the biggest things I do when I try to drag people out of isolation is I'll try to bring someone they know and trust with us. And they won't even catch that's what I'm doing, but I know it'll help them feel more natural in there because they have someone in going through the weeds with them. But it's just make it bite-sized. But I tell you what, even you in social isolation who dreads people, you can send that text. That is something that is manageable. And you don't have to feel obliged to send one every week from here on out. All right? That one connection keeps the bridge alive, keeps the fire burning in the lamp.
Mm-hmm. It does.
What do you think would be a good practical way for people to evaluate themselves as they try to either transition into social connection or just take that first honest step?
Yeah, like I said, we have to put pride away. If pride is holding you back, well, the hell with that guy. He doesn't call me. He doesn't talk to me, right? Yep. We have to offer grace sometimes. Because look, here's the thing. Sometimes people are busy and tired and stuff, but so are we. Right. And but if you always rely on those excuses for things, you're never going to connect, either one of you. Now, am I saying connect to people who hurt you? Of course not. Banish them if you need to. Right. But we're talking about people who will hold the rope for you if needed, who will offer love and understanding, people who are good for you in your life. And yeah, it's a difficult thing when time goes on since you've talked and connected. And maybe you feel overwhelmed because, well, man, it's like been 3 years, so much has happened in their life, right? It's been my experience though. I've had friends that I've made along the way, some which go back 20, 25, 26, 27 plus years. Hell, I have a friend who I've known since 5 years old, right? We still talk, but we don't talk all the time. And when we talk, it's like we just pick up right where we left off.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Right. So you don't know what you're going to get. Right. And if you do get kind of a disappointment out of it, offer grace. Offer grace. As I shared with you today, someone who's very important to me, someone I love very dearly, and I know they love me, but they're just not good. They're just not being a good friend all the time, right? What someone would call a good friend, but I have to offer them grace. So, connection is sacred. Connection is sacred. It's one of our ethos. And in fact, connection is so sacred to us, it almost sits in two of our ethos, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In connection and sanctity of life. So we're not meant to be isolated, like these isolated little candles burning alone in these different rooms, right? We're meant to strengthen one another. We're meant to notice one another, to reach and connect when silence has grown really heavy and thick. And sometimes that means we're the bridge and we put our pride away and let them do it. So, reach out to someone. If you're listening to this episode today, and this would be my kind of like my closing, Michael. If you're listening to this show today, the invitation is simple, and don't wait till you feel like you're ready. As you said, send the message, or make the call, ask a real question, and reach out to that person, that specific person who came to mind while you're listening to us. Not somebody, or not just someone, just some random person on your contacts, and not someday. Now, do it now, right? Do it now. Tell them I miss you, right? Or ask them, how are you really, right?
Yeah.
Do those things, because loneliness often convinces people that no one notices, that no one cares, that no one would come if they ask. But I promise you, if you start reaching out, they will. You'll be surprised. Yeah. And you can't pull yourself out of a well. You can't fix your own loneliness. Only other people can help us with that, right?
You can't heal relationship trauma without relationships.
That's right. And one of your favorite axioms, Michael, a great heart achieves greatness. Right? Not by being admired, but by bridging and being present and connecting, even when it's them that should do it. So, yeah, really important show. And honestly, guys, if you are out there and you're feeling lonely, reach out, please. Don't let this dark
DM us.
DM me. Yeah, I'll be friends with anybody. You just hit me up and we'll talk about it.
Our Facebooks are in the show notes. You can find us. I think one thing also that I didn't think about touching on in this, and I wish I would have brought it up sooner, it's about the whole how social mirrors distort us. And one of the biggest things I see with people who have been in isolation long enough is we feel like no one will understand us. There's this profound feeling of being so unique that no one would get us if we even tried to show ourselves. And if there's anything I've learned, no matter how unique you think you are, you'd be amazed the shared humanity we all have. How much people genuinely can relate to you. And not just your interests, but your struggles with things that are difficult, with your aspirations and what you want to see in the world. And I think it's through connection can we start actually building things and institutions that can make our dreams a reality. Right now I'm working on a passion project in loneliness, and I'm about to do a huge scientific study into it. And I know it's going to be helping me figure out what the barriers of loneliness is. But I want to tell you, I have almost no doubt the thing that will help with the isolation epidemic isn't resources. It isn't free things as far as like events and stuff like that. The number one resource that will allow people to get out of their heads and into their lives is going to be peer support. It's going to be friends, coworkers, family members who see them struggling and help them bridge that gap to cross that threshold. I almost have no doubt that is going to be where the money is when it comes to how people can actually move from isolation into life again. So our exercise today is pretty simple. You know, as Justin said, someone came to mind if you listen to this. Someone in your head, you're like, yeah, I gotta reach out to them. Reach out to them. If you're someone who has not talked to someone in a very long time, if you've been in isolation, you just go to work, come home, make that the goal. If you're someone who is at least somewhat connected with people, but you still don't leave the house, make your goal to set up a meetup where you guys either go to coffee or go to dinner or go to an event, something that would make you both have a great time. I think of concerts, right? I love concerts. I haven't been to a concert in like 4 years. And it's like, you know what? That's something that made me feel alive. That would be a great way to spend time with people. So I'm going to look for a concert and see if any of my friends want to go and try to just get them out there. But it's all about taking that next honest step out of isolation into your lives and helping others do the same. Because it's through connection can we find strength, can we find fulfillment, can we find purpose, and we can find meaning in our lives again, because that's what isolation robs us from. No matter how passionate you are about the work you do, if you are alone, you're probably struggling with one or all of those things. Yep. For affirmations today, I am allowed to reach out first. My presence matters to people, even when I doubt it. I notice when someone I love goes quiet, and I act on it. Connection is worth the risk of being turned down. And I am someone people can be less alone around. And there's so much truth to that. For our journaling prompts, who is one person in your life who has gone quiet? And what story have you been telling yourself about why and why you haven't reached out? When was the last time you canceled plans out of relief rather than necessity? What were you avoiding?
I think a lot of us would say yes to that.
Yeah. Even me, and I'm a social beast.
Yeah.
Like, if you reached out to the person you're thinking of right now, what's the worst honest outcome? And could you survive it?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
You will not die. You will not melt. You will not. You it's not like who was it? The Wicked Witch of the East, when she got water on her, she like melted or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will not happen to you. I promise. You'll just get wet. You'll be fine.
And even if the conversation's hard at first, I promise by the time you get off that phone call, you're going to be more connected. You're going to feel all that anxiety wash away. Mm-hmm. So don't forget to check out the episode packet below. It's going to be packed with ways to sort of evaluate what your next honest step is, how this stuff shows up, and sort of help you evaluate in your life where you could start building more community in your life. Also, please check us out on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook.
Spotify.
We're all over the place. Spotify. And if this episode resonated with you, please like, subscribe. We need to get this message out, and it really helps us out in giving you this type of content and helping you master your own lives. If it'll help someone you know, share it with them.
Yeah. Because listen, guys, we put a lot of time into this, time that we take away from our families, but time that we take away from work. We have to pay bills too. So the more you like and subscribe and share this stuff, those are free ways to help us earn on these episodes too, so that we can spend more time doing them and be a bigger resource for people out there, people that you love. So,
and check out the best website ever,
newashla.com.
Also, if you would like help working through this, if you're someone stuck in isolation and trying to figure out practical steps, we got coaching links in our bios. We do free first consultation. In one session, I promise you, I can help you create actionable steps around your patterns to help you start taking the steps you need to in life. And Justin can do the same. We're here for you. We want to help people, again, get out of their heads and into their lives, because life is worth living and life is beautiful, even if it's a little sucky sometimes. And also, thank you for being a part of this family. We love you guys. Love and gratitude. Ad lucem.
Ad lucem.